again, I know a bunch of people got upset yesterday when I talked about this, but I don't ever condone domestic violence. And this thing with Dana White is on video smacking his wife in Mexico during the New Year's holiday. Dana White, the president of the UFC, was caught on video. And the video you see is Dana White's wife slapping him, and then he overhand slaps her, and she falls to the ground. They're in a club or a restaurant of some sort. Dana White went on TMZ, who also is the one that leaked the video. Dana White went on TMZ and said, yeah, it happened. That's me. I did it. And I'm sorry. Me and my wife have talked about it. We're working through it, and we've been together. We're best friends. It was a one-time incident. And I say, okay, that's cool, but you can't be the president of the UFC anymore.
Right.
You're not an 18-year-old kid drunk outside of a bar, which doesn't make it right.
Well, and what's one of the key differences? Dana's thing is on tape, and this other thing is not. Like, that's a very different thing.
It is.
You know what I mean? And I think that, you know, while the soccer thing feels like, you know, a mom was upset about her kid not getting enough run in the World Cup and how the coach talked about her kid without talking about him, right? Like, the Dana thing is very much a black and white thing. You're on tape hitting your wife and not hitting her softly.
Yeah.
Like, you hit her
it's an ugly
with force,
incident.
dude.
Yeah.
And to me, I you know, we got all these comments yesterday about how, oh, well, she hit him first and he was just self-defense. And I'm here to say that it doesn't matter if a woman hits you, dude. Like, there's a higher level of accountability with it.
But let's be honest. He's the president of the UFC. He is one of the most powerful men in sports. There comes a great deal of responsibility with that. The sad thing is the UFC has not said two words about it. ESPN, who is by far the most important partner the UFC has not said two words about it. And Dana White's going to be able to go on and do whatever he wants to do. Meantime, if you're a fighter in the UFC and you have a domestic violence issue, you're terminated. Why isn't Dana White terminated? That's my point.
Yeah.
Domestic violence is wholly unacceptable. Was his wife right for slapping Dana White? No, she was not. No, she was not. But she's not the president of the UFC and one of the most high-profile figures in sports like Dana White is. Dana White should be fired by the UFC, period. Dana White should not be allowed to be one of the most influential, well-paid men in combat sports because he battered his wife. And you're right. I think it matters that he's on tape. And the problem is we're willing to justify domestic violence because he's Dana White. And we're willing to justify domestic violence because his wife slapped him first. But I'm telling you, there's no justification for it. And what I'm telling you is Gregg Berhalter and Dana White are two completely different situations. Gregg Berhalter right now should be the manager of the U.S. men's national team. He's not because of something that happened when he was 18 years old. And Gio Reyna's mother, who's the one that reported Gregg Berhalter, said, I forgave Gregg Berhalter when he was 18. He should have forgiven my son.
Wow.
That's why she reported him. And to me, it's completely wrong. The whole thing sucks. Is Gregg Berhalter innocent? He's not. He kicked it at the very least, to his words, and he admitted he kicked his then girlfriend in the leg when he was drunk outside a bar when he was 18. That's very different than being drunk in a bar on tape slapping your wife when you're Dana White. I think it's incredibly different.
Yeah.
And I think Dana White needs to be terminated by the UFC for this.
Well, and I think I totally agree. And I think the biggest problem, and we see this all the time in life and in sports and just in our reality, like, there are different levels of, like, acceptability, right? There are different levels of, like, how we feel about it. So like the you can't treat the Berhalter thing when he's 18 the same as the Dana thing. But the problem is we're so used to domestic violence in the NFL that as sports fans we're cool with the Dana thing because it's Dana White and it's the UFC and it's Conor and it's all these stars. It's Habib and it's all these big mixed martial arts guys. And what I'm saying is that I think at some point, like, we kind of have to have, like, this certain, like, groundwork, this certain benchmark of what's acceptable and what's not, and anything past that, then we have to talk about. So to me, I just I don't think that Dana White, it's not too strong to say he battered his wife in a public setting. Like, that's what happened. Like, I don't understand how people are comparing the Dana thing and the Gregg Berhalter thing. It's just two completely different things. By the way, the other thing that needs to be said is Dana did this now, like at his current age.
Yeah.
I don't even know how old he is, like 50 or whatever he is. Like, the Gregg thing is when he was 18 outside a bar. You can't tell me that all of us wouldn't change one thing if we could all go back. And that's my biggest problem, is that Dana broke the law. Dana made a huge mistake, something that should lose him his job. And this U.S. men's national team thing just feels like, dude, like he was 18 and drunk outside of a bar. Keep in mind, this was in the 90s when it happened, so our culture was completely different.
Yeah.
Right? Like the setting, the reality, our world, like everything was different. Yet we want to sit here and compare these two. And I just don't think there's any place for that. Now, as far as notoriety, the UFC has way more pull in this country, in my opinion, on a day-to-day basis than the men's national team. You want to talk about the women's national team? That's different. The men's national team, I feel like is not nearly as influential. So how that factors into their decision whether to keep him or not, I think is also fascinating as we move forward.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference here is that this whole U.S. men's national soccer thing sucks. Like it sucks that it's domestic violence. It's violence against women. It's alcohol abuse. It's violence in teenage relationships, which is a huge problem. Like, all of it sucks. But it also sucks that it's helicopter mom, because that's exactly what this is. And the worst part is it's helicopter parents, because Claudio Reyna was also involved in outing Gregg Berhalter. He was texting the leadership of U.S. men's soccer during the World Cup because his son, Gio Reyna, was not being played. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Gio Reyna has admitted that he did a bunch of crazy things because he wasn't getting playing time. Like, he was completely a child about it. So he deserved, in my opinion, the treatment he got from Gregg Berhalter. But the whole thing sucks. And again, I think this is mom and dad unhappy their kid's not the best player on the team, so they're going to take vengeance on the coach. Mm-hmm. And it happens all the time.
Facts.
And you can say whatever you want about how I was as a baseball dad. I was never that guy. Mm-hmm. I was never that guy. I never talked to a coach about playing time. I never bitched about this or that. Like, we just did not do that. At some point, we as parents have to stop crushing our kids and trying to build up these unbelievable, hey, you're a professional athlete dreams. Because some kids just are not professional athlete material.
Right.
And we as parents have to be okay with it. So I'm curious what you guys think about this. Is the Dana White thing different? And do you guys care about this Gregg Berhalter thing? Because one of the conversations Jake and I had before the show is Jake's opinion is that nobody cares about men's soccer in this country. Mm-hmm. Right? Am I misquoting you?
I don't think you're misquoting me. I think a very small sector of the country gives a damn about U.S. men's soccer. Again, hear me clearly. The women's team, I think, is way more influential in our country than the men's team, because the women's team just dominates their competition, And there are always going to be people. I remember, I think it was 2016 when we were in the crap hole radio station in Scottsdale, and Rapinoe was doing what Rapinoe did back then. Everyone talking about, oh, well, they're playing women, so none of their accomplishments matter. And it's like you're always going to have that group of people when it comes to soccer. But what
Yes.
I'm saying is that I'm not saying that soccer is not important because it's soccer. What I'm saying is that soccer in our country is not important because we have like 50 other sports that are just more important. Like, people care more about the NFL, NHL. Like, I think you can make a good case that soccer could definitely compete with Major League Baseball in the day-to-day, because I don't think people start caring about baseball till the postseason because the season's just too long. I don't think people give a damn about the 1 o'clock game in Cleveland against the Marlins. You know what I mean? Like,
and see, I'm totally opposite of that. I'm a passionate soccer fan. I am. I get it. I'm the only one in my house that cares about it.
Where do you think that started, though? Because that's what's fascinating to me when we talk about this. Like, where your fandom initiated from.
Oh, I know exactly where it initiated from. Working at Fox Sports back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I had access to the Premier League. I used to go in. There was a small group of guys at Fox Sports who would go sit in this certain control room and watch Premier League soccer. And I that's where my fandom started. I can tell you my soccer fandom started all the way back in Chicago as a kid. There was a guy named Karl-Heinz Granitza who played for the Chicago Sting way back in the day. And then at Fox, it just absolutely, my Premier League fandom exploded again because I had access to it on a weekly basis. And when I worked at Sporting News Radio, my guy Raj Groves was a big soccer fan, and him and I used to watch games together in the control room. Like, that's where it started. And the women's national team was absolutely them winning the World Cup at the Rose Bowl, like the Show Your Sports Bra, Brandy Chastain, like
Right.
all of those moments just continue to fuel that. But I've been a Premier League fan since 1998. I have been a soccer fan since I was a kid. And I care deeply about the U.S. men's national team. I'm passionate about it. I know who Claudio Reyna is. I know who Gio Reyna is. And the funny thing is, we're so different. You didn't have any idea who Gio Reyna is.
Yeah, I'm not. And this is kind of the conversation I want to have, because I do a sports show every day. I'm, going to be 30 next year. Like, I don't follow men's soccer, like specifically the U.S. men's national team, until the World Cup comes around. It's just not something I'm interested in. I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it. It's not my thing. That doesn't mean that I'm sitting here saying soccer sucks or it shouldn't be watched. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, for me, it's not my go-to. My go-to is the NBA, and when I have time, which is not often, the NHL. I really enjoy watching hockey. I do. So that's like right now, this time of year, that's what I'm looking at. Obviously the NFL, right? But that's on Sundays. It's a little different. That's not like a daily thing. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not sitting here saying soccer sucks, and I don't want to get comments saying that I'm saying that, because I'm not. What I'm saying, though, is that in our country, soccer is not at the forefront because there are many other sports. In Europe, soccer is the thing. Yeah. With all due respect to rugby and cricket and tennis and some of their other sports, and even golf, right? Soccer is the sport, and then it's everything else. So it's just a different dynamic. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I think, Real Salt Lake's a perfect example. I think they have a small but mighty fan base. Mm-hmm. We don't talk about it much on this show because it just doesn't appeal to the masses. And I am frankly not a fan of MLS soccer. I go to matches. I enjoy watching Real Salt Lake in person, and I watch quite a bit on TV, or I used to, because I will not watch on Apple TV. If David James is not calling the game, I'm not watching. But again, to your point,
right? How
important can MLS be when it's on Apple TV?
Well, and again, I think that's another piece of the conversation. I think, before we get away from what you just said, because I think it's a great point, MLS specifically is not enjoyable on TV, but it's a hell of a good time in person, which is another issue, right? Like, let's be honest about Americans, right? Like, in the big picture, Americans like to sit home on their couch and watch entertaining TV product. That's what we like to do, generally speaking, right? I know people who are not TV people, but in the sporting world, that's what we like to do. So when MLS feels like, with all due respect, it feels very slow, it feels unimaginative, it feels just kind of not even being tongue-in-cheek. It does feel like they're out there just kind of kicking it around.
It feels like practice for the Premier League.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
And
it's
I don't
slow.
want to sound like an a-hole about it, but that is what it feels like. Like, I can get down with, when I come over on the weekends and you're watching Premier League, I can get down with that. Even if it's Crystal Palace and Aston Villa, I can get down with it, right? It doesn't have to be Chelsea and City. Like, it could be a run-of-the-mill match, but I can watch it. That doesn't make me some soccer evangelist or huge fan. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and I also think one of the things that's really interesting, though, is the one match that Mrs. Monty and I went to for Real this summer. I think we ran into 3-4 of our listeners. Like, Neville 93. That's the first place I met him. And he sent me a DM. He's like, "Hey, I'd love to get a picture." Like, "Hey, Monty," like, it was. A lot of our listeners are soccer fans.
Yeah.
I get that. But I don't know that that means we should talk about soccer on the regular. In fact, I think it means we shouldn't.
Well, and I think the language thing is another small tidbit of this conversation. It's a match instead of a game. It's a pitch instead of a field, right? It's 0-0 instead of 0-0, right? Like,
yeah.
that's another thing that I think turns some people off about soccer.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right. I also don't want to get too far away from this domestic violence thing because I think it's a big story right now. Here we are again as men talking about sports. Significant figures in the sports world are involved in domestic violence, again with Dana White, the president of the UFC, and Gregg Berhalter, the former U.S. men's national team coach, no longer, and he didn't get renewed because Gio Reyna's mom told on him for a 1991 incident with his girlfriend when he was 18 years old. But these domestic violence incidents are huge, and both guys are wrong for it. I think Dana White should be terminated by the UFC. And you know what? I don't know what to do with this Gregg Berhalter thing. I truly do not. It was 30 years ago. Gregg Berhalter and I happen to be the same age. He's 49. He was 18 when this happened. He was drunk outside of a bar arguing with his girlfriend. And the allegation is he admits to kicking her in the leg. Mm-hmm. Yet Ms. Reyna says, who again at the time was roommates and best friends with Gregg Berhalter's now wife, says that the incident was far worse than that. I don't know what you do with that. The police were never involved in it. There was never anything criminal. There was no prosecutions. Frankly, it was probably covered up and never reported to the authorities. That doesn't make it right. That doesn't, in my mind, it makes no difference. The difference is it happened 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. The difference is, by all accounts, Gregg Berhalter has gone through the process. The difference is that they were trying to essentially blackmail Gregg Berhalter with those allegations to get Gio Reyna on the field more. His mom and dad were essentially threatening Gregg Berhalter with telling on him, if you don't play my son more. He didn't play their son more. Then he dragged him after the tournament in an interview, and so they went and tattled on him.
Right.
I don't know what to make of that. I don't know. I know for certain I feel like Dana White should be terminated for what he did.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a 53-year-old man drunk in a bar, and he slapped his wife, and it does not matter that she hit him first. It's meaningless to me. It's meaningless. Both of them are wrong. Frankly, if they were in the United States, they both had been charged with domestic battery. They would have been. But they were in Mexico, so they weren't. It doesn't make it right. So where do you guys come down on that? I know it's kind of an odd storyline today, and the reason we're leading with it is because we were arguing about it before the show. Jake's like, it doesn't matter. Gregg Berhalter's essentially is a jerk. Why? You asked me last night, why does everybody hate Berhalter? I'm like, nobody hates Berhalter. He just led the U.S. men's national team back to the World Cup, got them into the knockouts, and now all this comes out.
Yeah.
I don't think people hate Gregg Berhalter.
Yeah,
I truly
but what
do
I
not.
do think is that people, and I'm happy to sit here and I'll take the criticism. I'm not well versed on U.S. men's national team. I'm not putting effort, constantly
I don't think you deserve criticism for that.
Well,
it just is what it is.
But I think, our argument was about, hey, like, you think that Gregg is, I thought that Gregg Berhalter was hated by everybody because of this story. And that's not true. He's not hated by everybody. It's about everything we've just explained. I don't need to repeat it. We've said it like 4 times. But the point is that I struggle to connect with soccer. I do. When it's the World Cup, you get it. Like it is unquestioned the importance of it. I even enjoy the process of the World Cup and all the different matches and country. Like it's almost like the Olympics of soccer, right? Like you get that global feel, and that's really cool to experience and be part of, and like really talk about and watch, right? Like, but at the same time, as soon as that's done, like as soon as the World Cup is over, my want to in soccer gets really light because I'm not connected to Chelsea. I'm not connected to City. I'm not even connected to our national team. So it's hard for me to get into it. Now, I can get down with, if you want to talk about the entertainment value of in-person soccer, I'm here for that. Like, I love that. Like, I think soccer matches in person are incredible. The energy that we felt when we went to Chelsea, Liverpool, at Anfield was incredible, right? Like, I haven't been to a Real game, but obviously you guys have, and you said it was awesome, which is no surprise. So that's what I'm saying. It's difficult for me because we sit here and I get tired of talking about NFL football or college football because we talk about it so much, right? Like, we literally talk about it every single day.
Right.
But you understand why. It's football. Like, it's our country. It is like, you understand the importance of football in our country, so you get it. This soccer thing, I'm struggling with it because I'm like, dude, like, great. Like, it's Gregg Berhalter. Yes, he brought them back to the World Cup. But it's helicopter parenting. It's everything you don't want to be talking about soccer for.
I also think is a big part of this story. Soccer parents are terrible. Soccer parents are terrible. I amongst the many, I think soccer and hockey parents are some of the worst. I think that baseball mom and dad are some of the worst, but there's no doubt that soccer mom is probably the worst.
But I also think the entitlement of the kid, of Gio was entitled as hell. He was like, his initial thing was, oh, well, I'm not playing, so I'm going to go and freak out and do a bunch of crazy stuff. Because you're entitled.
Yeah.
You're entitled, Zach Wilson. Time to swallow the humble pill, right? Like, that, we've seen that play out. And it's funny, now you're not hearing from Lisa Wilson as much, are you? That, like, you see how it works out. But the difference is that it's the NFL, right? It doesn't feel like we're playing some little sport. It is the National Football League. So Lisa's not going to go and do that.
All right, let's get your comments in here. Kurt Myers, first one in this morning, says, good morning. What's up, Tanner? Says, morning, gents. And now I have to wake up at 5:15 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays to catch the train to Salt Lake. It sucks, but I guess I'm getting up at 5 a.m. isn't really early for you guys.
No, we're working already, bro. We've been working already.
We're already here at 5. We're already here. Maury, what's up with you? KJ, how the heck are you? Top of the morning, fellas. Great question. But who to build around right now? I feel like it's the finisher 23. We'll talk Jazz coming up here in about 10 minutes on the show because I think it is a really important question. Is the Jazz head for Houston tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Are the Jazz rebuilding in the right way? What are the different ways to rebuild an NBA team? Because I think if you look at Houston, their route was completely different than what the Jazz are doing. So we'll talk about that coming up on the show. Maury Alvarez says, build back better is not controversial if make Jazz great again isn't controversial.
That's funny.
Majazza, is that? Okay. Connor Tulin says, Monty in the morning. Indeed, Connor, good to see you. Essay says, woke mom's gone wild. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Sports mom's not good. D-Rock, how the heck are you? Good morning, everyone. Sounds like helicopter parents all over the place. Pied Piper says, I'd be happy to see Dana go. I think Dana White's the guy that people don't like. I think Dana White is, when you want to talk about guys that are known as a-holes, Dana White's an a-hole.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
I mean, he in my opinion, he's the only reason that the UFC and MMA are where they are.
Yeah, I just think Dana's cold-blooded in all aspects. Like, I think it's why, like, nobody... And I guess maybe it's not proper to say, but like when you're cold-blooded as a dude, you probably have an adverse reaction to your wife hitting you while you're drunk and under the influence, right? Whereas like someone who is a nice guy, who is a people person, like who is out in the community constantly, maybe would have handled it a little bit differently. But that's why I think people don't like Dana, because he is an a-hole. He does treat John Jones Bones differently than he treats, Connor or these other guys. Like, it just is what it is,
But he puts up with Bones Jones running from the cops, drug dealing or drug using.
Yeah.
He puts up with again, I love Conor McGregor as a fighter. I would never have him on my roster because he almost killed somebody throwing a barrier through a bus window. He's getting into fights in bars. Like, he puts up with that, fines and suspends them, and he slaps his wife on video and nothing's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
That's why people are pissed about it. D-Rock says, agree with the Dana situation. The mom situation's very different. That's the odd thing. Like, my first instinct on Dana White was he needs to be fired. And after reading about it, listening to his comments, I feel even more convicted he needs to be terminated by the UFC.
Right.
Gregg Berhalter doesn't feel that way to me. He's already out of a job. He is not the U.S. men's national team coach any longer. They hired a law firm to do an investigation. He's not coming back. I'd be really surprised if he came back. But the other question here is now what happens to Gio Reyna? How does Gio Reyna wind up on the team? You can't tell me that the Reyna family's not damaged by this. And I believe Claudio and the Mrs. Reyna are divorced now, by the way. But Claudio Reyna, the legendary U.S. soccer player, is now in management with Austin FC. Like, is this not a bad look for his kid? This has to be a bad look for his kid. Mm-hmm. This is a terrible look for his kid. Brad Turner, good morning. He says, I agree, president has to be held accountable. A hopefully mature man representing an organization versus a 20-something NFL player. Well, very different. Tanner says, soccer moms are insane. However, that doesn't excuse what happened. It does not.
But my problem is that it doesn't excuse kicking your, wife or then girlfriend or whatever. But, my problem is it's not on tape and it's all hearsay. So we're going to sit here and say, well, like she's saying, like Mrs. Rain is saying, oh, well, Gregg is downplaying it. It was way worse. And I know that because I was roommates with his wife. But why are we taking her word over Gregg's, who said, yeah, I did that and it did happen. And then, I, like you were saying earlier, I had to go into counseling and do all this stuff, self-improvement work. I did all that. And
they were separated. And again, the story is, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about Gregg Berhalter, the former U.S. men's national team coach, who took the team back to the World Cup, got them through the group stage into the knockout round, and did not play a kid named Gio Reyna enough, according to his parents. And as a result of that, Gio Reyna's mother went to USA Soccer during the post-tournament glow, because Gregg Berhalter did an interview where he was asked about the team, and he said one player in particular, never mentioned Gio Reyna by name, but everybody knew who he was talking about, and said one player, was immature and didn't handle himself off the field very well, and we almost sent him home. And so you get this stuff, and so the mom then gets upset her son got dragged through the mud, tells USA Soccer about this, but it turns out that Claudio Reyna was texting leadership at USA Soccer during the tournament and was threatening Gregg Berhalter during the tournament, allegedly, to out him as a domestic abuser if he didn't play Gio Reyna more. Mm-hmm. And now all of this has come to light. And how did it come to light? Gregg Berhalter went public with it and said, you know what, here's what's happening. They were blackmailing me to play their son more. They were going to release this information. Well, here's what happened. And he released a statement. He said, here's exactly what happened. So that's exactly how it went down. Tanner says, I care about U.S. men's soccer. Pied Piper says, millions of people here care about men's team. Skinny Dick Nick, good morning. He says, didn't Jay Kidd get involved with domestic violence? Now he's a head coach. He did. And Jason Kidd has many accusations. He's had drinking issues, and he is the head coach of the Dallas Mavericks now. Yeah. So, yeah, you're exactly right. Luis Capazzo, good morning. He says, I care more about curling than soccer. As for Dana, he was wrong, and I'm sure that was not his first time. And that's the tough part. And by the way, Luis works in law enforcement, so I'm sure you know this through your experience. But usually the first time it comes out is not the first time it happened. That's the thing with Dana.
Yeah.
That's the thing with Dana. D-Rock says, indoor soccer is great. I love indoor soccer. The Chicago Sting as a kid, nothing better than that. YouTube search the Chicago Sting, and you'll see amazing stuff. Luis Capazzo says, man, that would have been like what it would be like to be 30 again. Can you even imagine? To wind the clock back 20 years. Tanner says, I went to Peru in 2013, experienced soccer culture for the first time and loved it. When I came back to the States, I discovered that we had some sort of soccer culture, and that was RSL. Right, there you go. Salty Drunk says, if you want to know how big soccer is in the UK, you need to watch a movie called Green Street Hooligans. Yeah, the hooligan culture in the UK is ridiculous. Mark Hale says, how good are two hacks when they are on YouTube and not on the radio? I kid.
Hey, man.
And he was saying that because we said, well, how much interest can there be in MLS if it's on Apple TV? I think it's a huge mistake.
Well, and the thing is, Apple TV just is not the juggernaut in video streaming that YouTube is. YouTube's whole existence for the last decade has been streaming and video content, and Apple TV is just forced. It just is a money buy. Yeah. So it's totally different.
Mark also says, as an attorney that works in domestic violence every day, I need more than chat comments to be involved in this conversation. What do you mean by that? Kanai says, I believe that's called blackmail if that's the case. Yeah, they were trying to hold him up.
Well, and that's why I think it's brilliant he went public with it. I mean, he because you can't forget his contract was up with the team anyway.
Yeah,
so,
his contract expired December 31st with U.S. Men's Soccer.
So why wouldn't you go public? What do you have to lose?
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing sucks. The whole thing absolutely sucks. Q Sam, what's up? He says, my fandom for soccer started with Pep Guardiola, Barcelona in 09. Yeah.
There you go.
I hate City, which is why I hate Pep Guardiola. This is the first time he's been caught slapping her. I doubt he'd have the gall to do it public unless he's done it previously in private, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I hope that's wrong. I hope that's the first, last, and only time we ever, that's ever happened in the Whites' marriage. But I don't want to talk about other people's marriage. Brandon Butler says, I'm a season ticket holder to RSL and a supporter club member. I think once or twice a week segment would be appreciated. It's hard to get real news on the team. It is. It is very difficult. But it's no. I'm not doing the media thing.
But and I'm being serious here. I'm not even being an a-hole about it. Spence talks about RSL all the time.
Daily.
So what is the... Like, and I'm being serious. I'm seriously asking you this. Like, what is the issue? Because we obviously, we don't talk about it almost ever, but other people do. So is it just that you're not enjoying what he's saying, or that you want a different opinion on it, or just explain it a bit, I guess.
I think the hard part is that you're never going to get the truth about RSL from ESPN 700.
Well,
they're broadcast partners. Bill Riley's the voice on the radio. Like, you're never going to get that. Kurt Meyer says, my first memories of soccer was the movie with Pele and Sylvester Stallone. Pele laid to rest this week, by the way, in Brazil. Ryan says, soccer's nice for sliced oranges at halftime. Yeah, those were the days. Yeah, I guess I also played soccer in high school. So, Skinny Dick Nick says, I don't think Bridges should ever get an NBA contract again. He'd be a hypocrite if I didn't have the same view for Dana Bridges.
Well, Miles Bridges.
Oh, yeah, well, we saw Miles Bridges sitting courtside with the Hornets in Los Angeles. He's going to be there.
Yeah.
And Miles Bridges, his domestic violence incident was horrendous, if you believe what's in the media.
Yeah.
I mean, really bad. Tim Bruckmiller says, let's hit the like button. Yes, please. By the way, you can now be a member on our channel. Mm-hmm. We rolled out memberships yesterday for $10 a month. You get exclusive video content that is only for members, and you also get access to an Instagram group where we'll talk sports. We'll put daily videos in there. Like, we do a lot of stuff offline. So we decided to start a membership tier. So for $10 a month, you subscribe on YouTube and you get exclusive member video content. You get exclusive access to us 24 hours a day. So make sure you go to our YouTube channel and sign up. You can also get a link on my Twitter feed, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. There's a direct link to our membership, which you were quite excited about yesterday.
Yeah, really excited about it. I think that we do a lot offline, and there is a lot of opportunities for it. And it's, I'll be straight up with you guys. Like, the people who are in these groups are going to get, they're going to get advance notice on promotions. They're going to be ahead of the
breaking
game.
News, all of our inside information,
like everything. So to me, it's well worth your money, if you will. And I think that, it's going to be a lot of fun. We did, I think it was in like November or more like October, before we went on the Hawaii trip. We did the Casuals Getting Cut group, and we kind of piloted this a little bit. And that was a huge success, and we had a lot of fun with it, and we got to know people a little bit better who listen to the show. So I would tell you, go to the Monty Show on Twitter, find the link, or just go to our YouTube channel, and you'll see the join button. So check it out.
Look it up. All right, couple more on this. Football 50 in 7 minutes. Arlington Bears, who, by the way, you notice the logo next to his name because he is the very first member of our little exclusive club.
Yep.
Arlington Bears right there. Appreciate you. Chris Karn has been a longtime supporter of this show. So, Chris, I appreciate you listening to the show. Chris is a guy that I've gotten to know a little bit offline. Was the first guy to sign up for a membership. So I really appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. Obviously, the other guy, Greg Hawkins, was our second member, and Lopes fan Gabe was our third member. So we really appreciate that. Lopes fan Gabe says, Monty, as a kid, the Sting games and DePaul basketball at Rosemont Horizon was the best. Oh, man, Rosemont Horizon.
Yeah.
Oh, Rosemont Horizon. The Chicago Wolves at Rosemont Horizon. I saw so many concerts at Rosemont Horizon. I haven't thought about that building. Brandon Butler says Spence is on the station that is run by the team. He is.
Yeah,
exactly
and it's
right.
fine. I totally respect why you would have an issue with that. I get that completely. Yeah.
Brad Turner asks a really relevant question. How do you guys get over flopping in soccer? I played until high school and never got to a level where it was a thing. Too much power to decide game drawing fouls in a box. It is frustrating. It is frustrating. There's no doubt about that. But you're seeing it in all sports now. And the problem is, the reason guys do it is because it makes the official blow the whistle. And you know what? The way that the Premier League tried to legislate that was by a foul called simulation. It was a yellow card. Where if they felt like you were faking or embellishing, they gave you a yellow card for what they call simulation. I don't know how you legislate it out of the game because it happens in the NBA all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's at a point where we need to stop talking about legislating it out and start talking about like the fact that it's a strategy. Like we're at that point with it now.
Yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. Let's see. Kanai says, hey guys, can you show the Jazz organization how to do that also? Seriously. Lewis says everyone should hit the like button first thing so they don't forget when they get here. Yeah, it really makes a difference when you guys hit the like button. And what that does is you hit the like button and it essentially tells YouTube, hey, this is a good show. Tell more people to watch it, is essentially what happens. So it really does help us. Appreciate that, Lewis. Brandon Butler says 700 is about as real as RSL as the zone is on the Jazz. Yeah, you're never going to get critical comments about RSL on 700.
I'm with you, Brandon. And that's why I wanted to give you the chance to kind of explain that. And if it's as simple as that, that's fine. I respect that 100%. And frankly, that's been our brand on the show, which is I'm assuming that's why you're still here. I think the tough part is that RSL is such a niche thing.
Yes.
It's a very... I'm not trying to, knock it down, but the reality of our world is that RSL is a niche product. It is small. Like MLS is small, and then you're talking about a sect within that. Like that, just to put that into perspective.
And the issue also is, by the way, that they don't do much as far as like player movement. Like this has been a very quiet offseason for RSL. And Ryan Smith, the owner of the Jazz, is a minority owner of RSL, and I don't think it's really had much of an impact. So, yeah, it's hard to attach to something where there's not much more going on.